Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to Let's Start Story on What If Naruto was Mealstrom trainer, and kidnapped Anabel for harem. So do 4 blue hearts comment. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video and please share with your friends and watch till end. Also check out Patreon for I have upload Naruto X Rias and Akino uncensored spicy version, link in description. In a world where humans lived with creatures with abilities, in one part of this world there is a small town, and in a house we find a slender woman with fair skin and WN eyes with smooth red hair that was in a ponytail style with a green scrunchie, and she wearing a pink short-sleeved jacket with a yellow undershirt, a purple skirt, and light green shoes, and she was getting ready for bed and said in a sad tone, "Really wish I could have a child and maybe my ex-husband might have stayed with me." Then she looked out her window as upon seeing a star that was brighter than normal she thought, "I know it's stupid of me doing this, but Professor Oak did say that there was a wish-granting Pokemon in Hoenn." Then she closed her eyes, said with her whole heart into tea. "He wish, starlight starbright first start I see tonight, wish I may, wish I might have this wish I wished tonight." Then she stayed like that for a few minutes, then she opened them and went to bed. Eel in an unknown location, a small creamy yellow and white Pokemon with its eyes closed, and there are V-shaped markings that are light green. The top of its head is yellow and resembles a star, but with only 3 points hanging on. Those 3 points are 3 light green. It also has 2 wavy yellow strings streaming from behind it. Then it opened its eye to see they was black. Then it said groggily, "What's going on? I am not supposed to wake up for another 10 years or so." Then there was a few moments, then said, "Whoever is making this wish must be putting their being it this wish for it to wake me up." It disappeared. The unknown Pokemon reappeared in the town that the woman was in and said, "So this is where the wish came from." Then it floated around and quickly found the house with He lady. Then its eyes glowed and said, "So you really wish to be a mother, and from what I sensed you would be a fantastic one. I will try and find one that is deserving of a mother like you." Then it disappeared. When the Pokemon reappeared, it was in a void-like space and was in front of a large equine Pokemon with a golden ring around its midsection, and its body color being white with a gray, vertically striated underside, the pattern of which has similar recurrences on the underside of its mane, tail, and face, and its pointed feet are tipped with gold hooves. The mane is quite long, jutting away from its head, and its face is gray, with green eyes and red pupils, and a green circular pattern below its eyes. Then the little Pokemon said, "Lady Arceus, I wish for your assistance." The equine Pokemon looks down at the little Pokemon and said, "Jirachi, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be asleep for another 12 years? I was Lady Arceus, but a lady managed to make a wish, and she put her whole heart into it and more, which caused me to wake up." Jirachi replied. "I see. So what was the wish that the lady wants?" Arceus asked. "She wants to be a mother but can't for some reason, and I sensed that she would be a loving mother, but there isn't any child I can sense that would be perfect for her." Jirachi replied. "I see, and seeing as I am also trapped, there is but one way for us to grant that wish," Arceus said. "And what is that?" Jirachi asked. "I am going to need to go to the goddess, so stay here," Arceus said before closing her eyes, and her body went limp. In a world that seems to be an endless white void sat a woman wearing a snow-white dress, and she was doing paperwork when Arceus appeared and said, "Lady Kami, I have a request." The lady looks up and said, "What can I do for you, Arceus?" Then the equine Pokemon explained what was going on. Then the goddess said, "I see, let's look for orphans that deserves to have a mother." Then a large screen TV appeared. The TV then turned on, and then it showed a red-haired boy around 2 or 3 years of age being chased by a mob of fully grown humans, and then the boy runs into a dead end. Then they heard one of the people say, "Now we got you, you little demon." The goddess then turns to Arceus and said, "I know you are here in spirit, but I will open a portal that will give you a temporary body. Save that boy and he can be the child for the woman." Then a portal appeared. Then she turns to Arceus and told the equine about what else she would need to do. "Okay," Arceus said before going through the portal. In Naruverse the red-haired boy was in a dead end and the mob which was slowly approaching him. Then a portal appeared in between them and Arceus walks out. Then once she was fully though the portal closed, then equine Pokemon looked at the mob and said, "If you leave now, then no harm will befall you. The demon has summoned one of its kind." One of the mob said. "I am a Pokemon, not a demon," Arceus said. Before the golden ring changed color to pink color, then the Pokemon's eyes glowed, then the people all started to collapse. Once it was done, it turns to the side and said, "I know you're there, come out." Then an old man entered the ally and said, "So what happened here?" "Just a bunch of people attacking a helpless child. Now what do you want?" Arceus asked. The old man then sighed, then mumbled, "Why can't they see Naruto isn't the Kyuubi? So you know why these people was hunting the boy?" Arceus said. "I do," the old man said. "Does this have to do with Kurama?" the boy asked. "Who is Kurama Naruto?" the old man asked. "He is the fox I speak to sometimes after I am attacked, as in a way to protect me from what is happening," Naruto said. "We can talk about this in my office," the old man said. Then he glanced at the Pokemon and said, "Though looking at you might not fit." "That is fine. Is there anywhere we can talk in private?" Arceus said. "There is," the old man said. "Now think of it and I will do get us there," Arceus said. The old man then thinks about it, then said, "Ready." Then the Pokemon, old man and the boy glowed and disappeared. In an open field the trio they appeared. Then Arceus said, "So what is going on?" "Well, it's like this," the old man said before explaining about an attack that happened on the day on Naruto was born. "So you're saying that because Naruto has T's Kyuubi sealed inside him, he is treated like he is the Kyuubi," Arceus said. "That's right," the old man said. "What as I said, I can take him to a place where he can grow up without people knowing about his past," Arceus said. "There is a catch, isn't there?" the old man said. "You are quite perceptive because there is," Arceus said. "Well, we ninjas need to look for any catch for anything no matter what," the old man said. "I see. Well, the catch is he wouldn't be able to return as he comes with me," Arceus said. "Is there a reason for that?" the old man asked. "It's because I am not from this universe. I had to ask someone as O can enter this universe and I don't want to go through this again," Arceus replied. "I see," the old man said. Then he walks up to Naruto, then he kneels down, then said, "Naruto, what do you want to do?" Naruto looks at the old man, then said, "I don't want to be alone anymore." "I see, then you should go," the old man said with a sad smile. Naruto then hugs the old M and said, "Thank you, Gigi, and I am going to miss you." "I will miss you too," the old man said. "Oh, and before we go, there is one thing I need to do, and there is also something you need to know," Arceus said. "Oh, and what is that?" Naruto asked. "The first is released of the Kyuubi." Arceus then she and Naruto glowed, then a small ball came out of Naruto and then flew away, then said, "Now for the third thing you should know about a rule about crossing universes." "And what's that?" Naruto asked. "When you come to my universe you won't be able to use your chakra, but you will be able to something else," Arceus said. "Really, like what?" Naruto said. "Well, in my universe it could be one of two things, but I will not tell you," Arceus said. "So when do we leave?" Naruto asked. Arceus opened her mouth to say something. "Btu," the old man said, "can you wait about an hour?" Arceus looked at the old man and asked, "And why is that?" "So I can get what is rightfully Naruto's," the old man replied. Single quote. "Okay, fine," Arceus said in an understanding tone. "Thanks," the old man said, then heads off. "So what's your world like?" Naruto asked, and Arceus begins to tell Naruto about his world. "Ater an hour old man returned and handed Naruto a parcel and said, "Here you go, Naruto, this is everything you have take with you to this new world." Then he hands Naruto a letter and said, "And this is for whoever will be looking after you." "Thank you, Gigi," Naruto said as he gives the old man another hug. The old man smiled and hugs Naruto back and whispered, "Have a good life." "I will," Naruto said. Then he turns to Arceus and said as tears, "I am ready." "I can see that," Arceus said before she and Naruto began to glow, and they disappeared. The old man looked at where Naruto and the equine Pokemon once stood, then said, "I may not be able to follow you, Naruto, but I do know that you are going to be happy, and I am proud of that." Then he heads back to the village, with Naruto and Arceus appearing in the endless white void, and met with the goddess and said, "I have the boy, goddess." "That's good," the goddess said. Then she looks at Naruto and said, "Now are you ready to meet your new mother?" "I am. And I hope she cares about me," Naruto said. "I am sure she will, as she is the reason why you are here," the goddess said. "What do you mean?" Naruto asked. "You see, Arceus here is here because Say there is a woman in his world that made a wish that woke up the wish Pokemon from his 1000-year, but the Pokemon also known as Jirachi didn't think anyone in their world be right for her, and so he went to Arceus, who came to me and who I sent to you, the goddess explained as she kneels down to look Naruto in the eyes. Then she turns to Arceus and said, best you get going. You're right, Jirak. I has been waiting long enough, Arceus said. Then the goddess opened a portal and Naruto walked. Once the portal closed, Arceus said, thank you for your help, goddess, then she disappeared in the void. Where Arceus's body and Jirachi is. Then Arceus woke up and said as the portal appeared and Naruto walked out of it. Then Jirachi asked, so is this the child that I will be giving to the Lady Arceus? It is. And he has had a bad 3 years, Arceus said. I see, Jirachi said, then turns to Naruto and asked, so you ready to meet your new mother? You bet I am, Naruto said in a happy tone. But Arceus noticed Naruto had a scared look in his eyes. Then the boy and Jirachi disappeared. Outside the house of the woman that made the wish, Naruto and Jirachi appeared. Then Jirachi said, well, here is the house of the woman that is to be your mother. Then the Pokemon disappeared. Naruto stands at the door for a few moments, then said, okay, I can do this. Then he knocks on the door. Then on of the lights in the house turned on, and after a few moments the door opened and the lady looked around, but seeing nothing said, hello, anyone here? Then she sees red hair hiding, so she gently walks over to Naruto, how was scared, and then said in a motherly tone, hello there, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be in bed? I don't have a bed, Naruto replied. What about your parents? The lady asked. They are dead, Naruto replied. Oh my, the lady said in shock, then asked, so why are you here? Well, I was brought here, Naruto replied. Why? The lady asked. Because of you, or so I was told, Naruto replied. Why would you be? The lady said before realizing why the boy was there, then asked, are you here to be my son? Then Naruto nodded but went stiff as the lady hugged him. Then she lifted him up and took him inside and said, nice to meet you, I am Delia Ketchum. Nice to meet you, I am Naruto Uzumaki, Naruto said. Then she places him on the couch and Naruto hand her letter that his Gigi have him and said, this is for you. Then he lays on the sofa and instantly falls asleep. Thank you, Delia said. Then she reads it. Dear whoever is going to become the guardian of Naruto Uzumaki. My name is Hiruzen and I was the lost guardian of Naruto, and the boy has had a rough 3 years due to the ignorant of people, has had beating every day and has been alone for as long as he has known, and I am now. I hope you can give Naruto the life he deserves and help him forget the past. Oh, and if this has anything to do with your world, but Naruto is the last of his clan and was allowed to have multiple wives. Thanks you, Hiruzen. Once she was done, Delia looks at Naruto and asked, what was your past like? Then she goes up to her room and goes to sleep. The next morning is Naruto and Delia was eating. Delia said, Naruto, once we are done eating, we need to go somewhere. Where are we going? Naruto asked. To see a kind professor about me officially adopting you, Delia said. Okay, Naruto said. An hour later, Delia and Naruto were outside a big house with a windmill when Delia knocked in the door, and a middle-aged man with peach skin, gray hair, and thick, bushy eyebrows. He wears a white lab coat, a light maroon polo shirt, a brown belt and beige pants, and matching brown loafers. Answered the door. Upon seeing Delia said, Delia, what bring you here? Well, Profess, or I need your help with something, Delia asked. If it within what I am able to do, you know I would help out, the professor said. Well, I need help with him, Delia said, gesturing to Naruto. The professor looked at Naruto shocked, then said to Delia, hope you plan on explaining what is going on here. That's why I am here, Delia said. That's good, the professor said, then looks at Naruto and said, hello there, I am Samuel Oak and I am a professor that studies Pokemon. Hello professor, I am Naruto Uzumaki, Naruto said. Why don't you go round back and play with some of the Pokemon that's round there, Professor Oak said. Thank you, Naruto said before going round the back. Why don't you come in and we have some tea while you explain what's going on, Professor Oak said as he leads Delia inside. After many hours talking and with the help, Delia managed to adopt Naruto. Then she walks out to find Naruto only to see that he was having a nap with all kinds of Pokemon, even ones that have a nasty side, and the professor said, that boy has an amazing gift. Yeah, Looks like he does, Delia said before walking over to Naruto, carefully trying to not wake the Pokemon. Then once she was close enough, she gently shocks Naruto and said, "Naruto, it's time for us to go home now." "It is. Guess I fell asleep," Naruto said groggily as he woke up. "You did, and it looks like you have a gift. And I am now officially your mother," Delia said. "Really?" Naruto asked, which Delia nods. BTU was knocked to the ground as Naruto tackled her into a hug. Then once Naruto lets go, the newly formed family headed home. It has been 5 years since Naruto has been brought to the Pokemon world, and in those 5 years he has discovered that his chakra he once had is how a power that is still unknown. But it allows him to understand Pokemon, and right now he is in the Pokemon ranch that is owned by Professor Oak, playing with the Pokemon there when he sees a small quadrupedal Pokemon that resembles a fox cub. It has large triangular ears and a short snout with a tiny black nose, and whisker-like tufts of fur that protrude from either side of its face. Its eyes were sky blue with red eyelids, and it also has circular red patches above its eyes resembling eyebrows. Its body is covered mainly in slate gray colored fur. It has a deep gray fluffy mane around its neck, and a tuft of red-tipped fur atop its head that resembles a flame. It has small, red-tipped paws and feet with no visible digits, and a short fluffy gray tail. Then asked as he slowly approached the Pokemon, "What sort of Pokemon are you?" The Pokemon, who was looking elsewhere, noticed Naruto approaching, said in a young female tone, "Stay back, human, I will not go back." Naruto stopped and looked at the Pokemon and asked, "Go back where?" "To the thing that brought me, my mother, and the others here," the Pokemon replied. Then it realized who it was talking to, then said, "You can understand me?" "Yeah, I can, though I am not sure the power behind it. Anyway, can you take me to wherever you came from so I can help the others?" Naruto replied. Then the Pokemon leads Naruto towards where the other Pokemon are being held. After about 25 minutes they came to a cliff with a really narrow walkway down which leads to a cave, and Naruto said, "I know this place." Gigi said not to go down there as there are tentacle and hey, attack any and everything. Then he turns to the Pokemon that in called Zora, which he learned on the way, and asked, "You sure this is the place, Zora?" "It is," Zora replied. Then he starts going down the path, and once he gets to the bottom, he sees a ship in the cave. Then he asked, "Is that how you got here?" Then the Zora nods and Naruto starts to walk to the cave. As Naruto was near the mouth of the cave, he sees a group of men walking out of the cave, so he quickly hides in behind some tall rocks that was nearby. Then he hears one of the men ask the one that was leading them, Sir, is it wise leaving the ship unattended, seeing as anyone can stumble across it?" "Well, the person that hired us wants the hole there, so I took precautions so no one will come across our ship and car. Go for 2 reasons. 1, the place where we are is in Professor Oak's ranch, and 2, this place is known to have tentacle, which we have taken care of," the leader said. The man that asked the question TNKS about it then said, "I see, so it should be fine." Then another man asked, "Sir, what about the Pokemon that managed to escape?" "We can take care of it later, we will be late, and our client isn't one you want to keep waiting," the leader said, and with a nod they all left the cave, not N0 otaking Naruto due to his ninja training. After waiting some time to make sure the men were gone, Naruto turns to Zora and said, "Let's go." Then they head into the cave and boarded to ship, then started to look around. After a while of looking around, Naruto found the location of the Pokemon that had been captured. But the door was locked, but Naruto easily picked the lock, and once inside the Zora rushed over to one of the cages while saying, "Mother, are you alright? I brought help." The cage was holding a fox like Pokemon, stand on 2 legs, and was covered mainly in dark grayish fur. It also has a pointed muzzle, red lining around its eyes and mouth, teal eyes, a fluffy black ruff of fur around its neck, and a long, voluminous spiky crimson mane with gray tips tied into a ponytail with a teal-colored band encircles the bottom part of its mane. "Well done, dear," the Pokemon said. Then she noticed Naruto looking around. While Naruto was looking around, he see a few Pokemon that he hasn't seen before once, like there was 2 a small bear-like Pokemon, and they have a dark gray body. The feet have 2 toes Haft-like triangles. They also have 3 claws on each hand. Another was a turtle-like Pokemon with a dark blue body. Its shell looks like a light blue-yellow gradient gemstone, with a peculiar white design on the top on its upper legs. There are teal, star-like gems. It also has rings around its legs of the same color, and 2 more Pokemon that was sleeping. One was a large purple mane and a turk Was gem-shaped crown and it also had 2 tails, ridge spikes, and red spines, and the other one had a large head crest and it had gray paws with brown pads, but its front paws with sharp red claws ended outward, and 3 green stripes are on its right thigh. Its gray plate still covers its muzzle and resembles a handlebar mustache. It also had black cuff-like on its back legs, while the front legs each have 2 black pads on them. As Naruto continued to look around, and he noticed at the back of the room was a case holding several things, and asked himself as he walked over, "What are those, T?" And he sees like marble-like gems with multicolored stands in the middle, and next to the marbles was a lot of prism-like gems, and each had a symbol in the middle of it. Next to them was a white band with a cross symbol on it, and the last this was a weird-looking crystal-looking Pokeball. Then he said, "Now then, time to get you all out of here." As Naruto was about to start picking the locks, Zora's mother then said, "Young one, hide, they are back," which Naruto did. Then the men walked in, followed by a few people in black uniform with a red R on their chest. Then the leader BTU, the leader of the group, looked at the door confused, then asked the closes man of his group, "Hey, was this door locked when we left?" Upon hearing this, Noro thought, "Oh no." The man who was thinking said, "I think it was Sir." "Then that means," the leader said. Then everyone that was in the room split up and begins to look around for the intruder, and one of the men said, "Sir, I have the Pokemon that escaped. So, it came back for its mother, now put it in a cage," the leader said before continuing looking for the intruder. And it didn't take long for the leader to find Naruto, and he said as he picks Naruto by his collar, "Well, what do we have here? A little boy who is in a place he shouldn't be. And what do you plan to do with him?" one of the black uniform men asked. "I don't know," the leader asked. "Well then, I am sure we can think of something," the black uniform man asked. The leader looked at the uniform man and said, "You want this kid for what?" "Well, more for our scientist, really. I ask sure. He can have a few experiments for him," the uniform man replied. "Fine by me, but I want more money," the leader said as he tossed Naruto into an empty cage, scaring Naruto even more due to his past. "Fair enough," the uniform man said. "All right men, we leave in 5 minutes. Meanwhile, at Professor Oak's home, Delia was walking up to the building thinking, "Where's Naruto? I am getting a bit worried." Then she knocks on the door. After a few moments, the door opened up, revealing Professor Oaks, and he said, "Ah, Delia, what bring you here?" "I am here for Naruto. He should have been home half an hour ago," Delia said. "Oh, I thought he went him, seeing as I haven't seen or heard from him for a little while," Oak said. Then upon seeing Delia's worried face, he quickly said, "But I am sure he is fine." Delia then opened her mouth to say something but was interrupted by one of Oak's assistants who said, "Professor, something is wrong." "What is it?" Oak asked. "All the Pokemon have all rushed off and those inside their Pokeballs," the assistant replied. The professor then said, "What could have made all the Pokemon act like this, and the last time this happened was," then his eyes went wide. Then turned to his assistant, then asked, "Where was these Pokemon heading? In the same place?" The assistant thinks about it, then said, "Now that you mention it, they were, and it was to the Tentacle Cove. Something must have happened there. And Naruto is there," Oak said. Delia remembers a similar incident involving Gary, who cornered Naruto, who then had a panic attack as he remembered his past. He said, "You're right, and we better move quick. Right, as we don't know what has happened to Naruto," Oak said before he and Delia ran outside and headed to the Tentacle Cove. By the time Delia, he professor and a few of his assistants got to the cove, there was a free-for-all battle going on, and upon closer look they see a ship trying to leave the cave and Pokemon trying to get into it. Then Delia said, "Do you think Naruto is on that ship, Professor?" Oak, who was looking at the ship, said, "Most likely. Now I want you to head back and call the police because I get the feeling something isn't right here." "Got it," Delia said as she carefully left to Warzone. Once Delia was gone, Oak turns to his assistants and asked, "So how do we stop the ship?" "I don't think that is necessary, Professor. One of the assistant said before pointing to the waters and said, "Look." Professor Oak did as asked, only to see a lot of water-type Pokemon doing their best to stop the ship from leaving. Then he said, "Okay, I don't think they can hold it back much longer." "You're right, Professor," said one of the assistants said. "So any ideas on how to get onto the boat?" another assistant asked just then. There was an explosion from the ship and the assistant asked, "What was that?" "I think we are about to find out," Professor Oak said then as if on K the two Pokemon that was once asleep emerged but they both looked familiar to Professor Oak, and he thought, why do those two Pokemon look like Suicune and Entei? Wonder if any of the other professors have any knowledge of them. Professor, what are those Pokemon? One of the assistants asked. I have no clue, Oak replied. Then he sees the black Pokemon coming out of the ship carrying Naruto, followed by Zora and the two bear Pokemon. On and the turtle, and they abandoned the ship. Then the professor then turns to his assistants then said, come in, we have to check Naruto. Few minutes earlier as Naruto was panicking unaware of the Pokemon outside trying to stop the ship from leaving, the two sleeping Pokemon begins to wake up. Then the Rapture Pokemon looked around and asked Zora's mother in a feminine tone, where are we? I don't know, but I do know that we are near land as that boy came to free us before he was unfortunately captured, Zora's mother answered. The two now awake Pokemon turned to see the now panicking Naruto. Then the other Pokemon asked in a masculine tone, what's happening to him? I don't know, but he has been like that since our captures threw him inside the cage, Zora's mother said. The turquoise sea-colored Pokemon looked at Naruto then said, poor young one, looks like he is terrified. Well, the one that are going have plans for us did say that they can give him to someone for experiments, but I think there is something more to this, Zora's mother said as she looks at Naruto with a sad look in its eyes. Well, seeing as he is in his position because he was trying to free us, I think it's only fair we do the same, right? The male Pokemon said as he looks at the other one. Right, the Rapture-like Pokemon said before they both easily freed themselves then fee the others. Then the two Pokemon left the room by going thought the walls. Zora's mother then turned to the bear Pokemon then said, you two go to the case and take everything that is inside. Whoever took us from where we live is bad news and can't be left with them. Okay, the two bear Pokemon said before doing as instructed. Then once they were done and Zora's mother carrying Naruto, they left the room via the hole in the wall. Once they are outside and in the clear, Zora's mother gently placed Naruto gently against a tree. Then she hears voices, so she gets on guard to see the professor and his assistants walking up to them. They stopped when the mother Pokemon started to growl at them. Then one of his assistants said, Professor, what do we do? Professor Oak said nothing, not faced by the Pokemon growl looks around to see Naruto, who was terrified then thought, so that's it. Then he said, there is nothing we can do while Naruto is like this. So what do we do now? One of his assistants asked. Well, the rear poachers that need to be tied up, Professor said. Then they left the area, but then the professor stopped and turned back at the Pokemon guarding Naruto then said, can you stay right Aaron not take Naruto's Zoroark, which the Pokemon nods as the Pokemon can see clearly that the professor series for the boy. Back at the ship, thanks to all the Pokemon, the professor and the assistants managed to capture everyone. Then they waited for about half an hour before Delia returned with the police, and as the officers was taking the people away, Professor Oak walks up to a woman with dark teal hair and fair skin wearing a purple cap with a black rim, red top, and gold star, a purple collared shirt with red trim, a sky blue chest piece, and gold shoulder pads, a black purse, a matching belt with a gold buckle, a purple skirt, black shoes, and white gloves, and said, thank you for coming so quickly, Officer Jenny. No need to thank me, the officer said. Then she looks at the Pokemon and asked, so what is going on here? I have never heard of Pokemon acting like this before. Professor Oak took a deep breath then said, they was acting to protect a boy named Naruto who was having a panic attack. Officer Jenny opened her mouth to say something, but Professor Oak cut her off by saying, now don't ask me why they do this, as I don't know, but it's like when Naruto goes past a certain end point of being scared, something inside him send out a beacon or wave within a certain area, most likely depending on how scared he is, and every Pokemon within said area acts. Jenny thinks about it. Hen said, I would like to see the boy and ask him what happened if that's alright. I am fine with it, but he might not feel like answering anything for a little while, Oak said. That's fine, I would still like to see the boy, Jenny said. Then she turns to her men and said, keep leading the prisoners while I go with Professor Oak. Okay, the other officers said. Right then, if you will follow me, Oak said, with Delia joining with the two Pokemon that was once on the ship following behind them. As the trio was walking towards Naruto, Jenny noticed there was a lot of bird-type Pokemon. Hing then she asked, Professor, should we be worried? Professor Oak looks up to the bird Pokemon then said, only if we try and harm Naruto, which got a nod in response. Once the trio got to where Zoroark and the others are, they see Naruto still terrified and Zora trying to calm him down. Then out of nowhere Delia rushed over to Naruto and as calmly as possible under the watchful eyes of the Pokemon that was protecting her son placed his head on her lap and begins to sing gently while stroking his whisker marks, and he begins to clam down and the Pokemon begins to wander off. Once Naruto had calmed down completely, he fell asleep. Then she turns to the Pokemon that was still there and she said while bowing her head, thank you all for looking after my son. I see what you mean why he won't be able to answer my questions and looks like I need to be gentle as I do. This is the last thing I need is a bunch of Pokemon attacking me because I scared a kid too much, Jenny said. Yay. Oak said then he thinks, but the real problem is just being in the same room as you could trigger him, but then he remembered something. Then he asks, hey, don't you have a daughter about 8 years old and wants to be just like you? Jenny nods and said, that's right I do, and she does. Why do you want to know that? Oak sighs a bit then said, it's not my place to tell but I will tell you a little bit about Naruto. Up until 5 years ago his life was so bad that I wouldn't want anyone to live it, even my worst enemies, and what you saw was the results of it. And in those 3 years he lived in a village where everyone but a handful of people was hurting him, including doctors, nurses and police officers. Even to this day Naruto doesn't go to hospitals or clinics, and to get him to go avenue to basically bribe him, and the officer was shocked to hear about this. Once the shock passed Jenny then said, I see what you are getting at. You think because of his past he wouldn't be willing to answer, but if he was with someone around his age, he will be more relaxed. Yeah, that's right, Oak replied. Jenny thinks about it then said, I will have to speak to my superiors about this. This will take a couple of days. Oak nods then said, that's understandable, but as we can just get a recording of him telling us what happened, and I have to make a few calls anyway. Yeah, I think I can see why, Jenny said as she eyes the 2 bear Pokemon, the turtle and the 2 that followed them. Right, so let me know when you are ready, and I will inform Naruto about what's going on, Oak said. Will do, and I better get going, Jenny said as she begins to walk away. Professor Oak then turns to Delia and asks, you ready to get out of here? With a nod Delia stands up and picked Naruto up, and then she and Oak walks away. A year has passed since Naruto stumbled on the poachers, and in that time he has met Officer Jenny's daughter whose name was April, who got permission to help her mother out with the case, got Naruto testimony, and in that year Professor Oak and Naruto had learned that the marble gems was known as Mega Stones, which allows certain Pokemon have a temporary evolute. On the Prism Gems he learned from his cousin in Aloha are Z moves, and you need a special band called a Z ring, in which Naruto has one coming to him when he starts his journey. The white band with a cross symbol on it, Dynamax band, and the crystal-looking Pokeball is known as a Terra Orb, and it allows a Pokemon to crystallize and gains a hat based on a type, and that said Pokemon might have a second or third typing. Right now Naruto was at the ranch helping the professor feed the Pokemon, including the Pokemon he helped free the year before who wanted to stay with Naruto, and the professor had Arnid from his Paldine colleagues who was messing with a time machine before stopping the idea as it got too dangerous for them, and they had brought too many Pokemon from the past and the future to present. That the 2 Pokemon that looked like legendary Pokemon Suicune and Entei are paradox Pokemon from the past of the 2 and named them the Suicune one Walking Wake, but Naruto named her Blue ND named the other the Entei looking one Gouging Fire and named him Pyro, and at first the 2 professors wanted them returned but was sent back to Oak as they was a bit violent to any and every one, and D was also told that there was a third one as well, and the turtle was from the same region and was also a legendary Pokemon called Terrapagos. The 2 bears are from an island of the coast of Galar and their names are Kubfu. As Oak was watching Naruto feed the more powerful one, he as always saw they was gentle with the boy, which made him smile. Then he said, Naruto, come over here, I have something to tell you. Naruto walks over to the elderly professor. He asked, what up Gigi? Well, as you know, the annual summer camp in next week, Oak said. Yeah, I am looking forward to it, Naruto said excitedly. Well, this year is going to be somewhat different, Oak said. What do you mean, Professor? Naruto asked. Well, this year it has been decided that a selected number of kids from each region will be coming here, Oak replied. But what about Blue and Pyro? You know I am the only one what can get near them, and they started to let you and Mom get near them about 2 months ago, Naruto said, worried about the other kids. You have a point then, but the only this we can do is let then children know about then, and do you mind letting them know to stay hidden and you will have special permission on to go and see with them once the activities are done for the day, Oak said. I don't mind though, I think Blue will be annoyed, Naruto said. You're right, and at times I swear she acts like your Mo. Oak said as he remembers how protective she was over Naruto, and making Naruto chuckled as well. And when they were done feeding the Pokemon, the professor turned to the 9-year-old boy and said, Now Naruto, you better get going as I have things to sort out for the camp next week. Okay, Naruto said. Then he turns to the Pokemon and said, Bye everyone. Bye, all the Pokemon said. Then Naruto left. As Oak watched Naruto leave, he heard one of his assistants say, No matter how many times I see it, it's amazing on how much Pokemon love Naruto. You're right, but it's also he loves the Pokemon. N is one saved him from a terrible life, so it's properly paying it forward, Oak said. A week later, Naruto was now standing in a back of Professor Oak lab with a lot of children around his age and stand. On a platform was 10 professors chatting when Oak pointed to him. Then he get on center and got everyone attention, and once he has it he said, Greetings, and I thank you all for coming to this our summer camp to become great trainers. Now before we set you into your groups for the next week, there is a marked area, and this area is off limits, and if anyone is seen in this area will be removed from the camo. A boy with light skin, brown hair and eyes asked, Is there a reason why the area is off limits when past years there wasn't off limits, Grandpa? Well Gary, this area has some very aggressive Pokemon, one that will attack almost anyone, Oak said. Then he went over some more of the rules, and the groups will be a max of 5. 8 an hour. Everyone was in there and Naruto was with his team, another boy and 3 girls. The boy has brown hair and blue eyes. The one of the girls has shiny lilac colored hair, purple eyes with small eyelashes. The next girl was slim with emerald green eyes, dark black hair, and very pale skin, and the last one has black hair with blue highlights on the inside that is tied with a green clip, and has light blue eyes. Then Naruto said, Hello, I am Naruto Uzumaki Ketchum and I am from Kanto. The boy then looked at Naruto and said, So you're the boy that Aunt Dila adopted? That's right, I am, and you must be Richie, Mom's nephew who lives in Johto W. Ith Aunt Karel, Naruto said, which got a nod from Richie. Then Naruto to the girls and asked, And you 3 are? Pleased to meet you, I am Anabel, and I am from Hoenn, the lilac-haired girl replied. Hi. My name is Marnie, I am from Galar, the pale-skinned girl said. I'm Liko, nice to meet you all, and I am from Paldea, the last member said. Then the group got to know each other. After a few days, Naruto and his team was in the middle of an activity which was near the forbidden area when Naruto was ahead of the group when suddenly they stopped, which Naruto noticed and turned to face them and no ced they was scared of something, so he asked, Hey guys, what's wrong? But all he got in response was nothing, so he looked behind and saw Blue looking at the group, and before the boy could say anything, Blue quickly grabbed Naruto and ran off, making the rest of the group scream and ran back to the professors. When the group of 4 got back to camp, they was met with a professor that has fair skin, blue eyes, and spiky white hair with sideburns and a mustache. He wears a gray jacket over a white shirt paired with a light blue vest, a gray tie, dark teal pants, and gray shoes. Sometimes, he wears a white lab coat with his outfit. And he said, My, what seems to be matter with you lot? Then he counts, then asks, And you seem to me missing a member, what happened? Well, Professor Rowan is we were doing the activity. Naruto convinced us to go near the forbidden area, and then there was a Pokemon that we never seen before showed up and it took Naruto, Anabel said. The professor sighed, knowing at the Pokemon was as he and the other professor had been told about them beforehand. Then he said, Alright, follow me. Then he leads the children to the other professors. When the group entered the ray where the professor was, they was met with a slender old woman with green eyes and brown hair. She wears a yellow dress with long sleeves under a white lab coat, beige ballet flats, a purple necklace, and glasses, a purple headband, and carries a cane with a bird Pokemon. She asked, Professor Rowan, what beings you here? Well, Professor Magnolia, there is an incident with one of the campers, Rowan said. The female professor looks at the group and notices one of the children is missing and asked, Now dearies, care to tell me what happened and who is the missing member? Well, our missing member is Naruto. And we were near the forbidden area, Liko started. Stop right there dear, non need to go on, I can guess what happened, Professor Magnolia said. You do? Richie asked. Professor Magnolia nods then said, yeah, and that Pokemon is one of the reasons why there is a forbidden area, and I am sure after the day's activities Naruto disappears for a while. We have, and when we asked him, he said so, see a friend, so was going to follow him tonight to see what he was up to, Marnie replied. Well, that Pokemon is what Naruto was seeing, and she is a bit protective of Naruto, Professor Magnolia said before starting to walk out the room. Then she turns to the children and asked, so do you want to see what else is in the forbidden area? The children looked at each other and said, can we? Well, it is not advised, but I am sure with us two it will be alright, Professor Rowan said before he joined the group as they headed to the forbidden area. When the two professors and 4 kids got to the area, the professors turned to the kids and the female one said, alright kids, remember to stay close, and when they 4 children nodded, they entered. After a while of looking they heard la Uter, so they went to where it was coming from and found Naruto playing with the Zora, the 2 Kubfu and Terrapagos. When the turtle Pokemon looked to the side and started to walk that way, making Naruto asked, Terra, where are you going? Then he looked to the where the Pokemon was walking and saw the 2 professors and his team, and he asked, hey guys, what brings you here? Well, we were read about you after that Pokemon suddenly grabbed you and ran off, Murni said. Sorry about that, but Blue gets like that at time, and there is a running joke round here that she is my poke mother and D would never intentionally hurt me, Naruto said. Terrapagos then walked up to Liko and started to rub its head on her leg, and she said, hello there. Then she bends down and pats its head. Then all of a sudden there was a glow coming from inside Liko's clothing, and she said in shock, my pendant, and then she pulls it out, and to everyone's surprise it started to get bigger and change shape, and when the light died down there stood another Terrapagos. Then Liko asked, what just happened? Well, it looks like there was more to your pendant than you knew, Professor Magnolia said. More special than you knew, seeing as Terrapagos is a legendary from Paldea, Naruto said, shocking everyone as it was almost unheard of to see a legendary Pokemon. When the shock wore off, Richie said, and how do you know that? Because I read a book, Naruto said. So who are the rest of the Pokemon here? Anabel asked. Right, well, you met Blue, a walking wake, and Terrapagos. Next we the bears are called Kubfu, also a legendary. Then we have Gouging Fire, but I call him Pyro, and lastly, we have Zora and Zoroark, Naruto said. Right, I believe it is time for us all to return back to the camp, and with 5 reluctant children they returned. After a few more days it is now the last day of the camp, and Naruto and friends are talking when Naruto asks, so seeing as we all want to travel, how about we travel together? Good idea, Naruto, so the question is, which region should we all start at? Murni said. That's a good question. I want it to be my home region, and I am sure you all want it to be as well, Anabel asked. I was hoping that it would be my region, Liko said. You're right, I do, Murni said. While thinking about a solution, Naruto, how about a competition then? What sort of competition? Richie said. One that will decide which region we start, and it done fairly, Naruto said. So get on with it, Liko said. Seeing as we have 5 people from 5 regions, how about we use the scores from the individual tests, and whoever score the highest we start with their region, Naruto explained. You know what, that's a smart idea, Murni said. And I also agree with that, Professor Oak said as he walked up to the group. Professor, what are you doing here? Richie asked. Well, I was coming to see if you, as the last part of the camp is about to start, and then I heard your little problem, and then I heard Naruto's idea and think it is a great idea, Professor Oak said. It a good idea, but Professor, how do we know you won't make Naruto the top, seeing as you two know each other? Anabel questioned. Well, you do have a point there, BTU, as you said, I know Naruto and I know he isn't one to use a connection like just to do something petty like that. His pride won't let him do so if he wants some Ething he want to earn it, the professor said. Damn right, Naruto said. Professor Oak then chuckled, then said, now come on, that last part will start shortly. Then he leads the group to the hall with the test ready. After a few hours all the children was now standing to get ready, and Naruto and friends was now standing in front of each other, and each had a piece of paper, and Naruto said, on the count of 3 we show our scores. 1. Richie starting it off. 2. Anabel said. 3. Murney said. Go. Liko said. Then they all presented their scores. Look like IWN, Naruto said with 16 questions correct. Looks like it, Anabel said with 15 questions correct with the rest at 13. Then they made plans to meet up in Viridian City when they all have their starter Pokemon. Then with one last goodbye, they went to the professor that brought them. That's all folk. It's been a few years since the camp and now Naruto is 13 and he was in his bed sleeping when a girl around 10 walked in. She has blue eyes, fair skin and brunette hair, and as she sneaked in she had a mischievous look. When she got to Naruto's bed she grabbed Naruto's Pokeball alarm clock and went to fiddle with it, but the moment she fiddled with it there was a puff of black smoke covering the girl's face. Then she had Naruto say, "Nice try Munchkin." "That wasn't nice big brother," the girl said. "So is sneaking into my room and mess with my alarm," Naruto said. Then he sits up and swings his legs of the bed then said, "Come on Molly, let's wash that stuff off and head down to have breakfast." "All right big brother," Molly said before leaving the room, and Naruto gets ready. Later Naruto was sitting at the table with his mother and sister eating when Delia said, "So Naru, are you looking forward road to finally getting a Pokemon and starting your journey?" "I am mother, and I am going to the best trainer I can be, and I will be capturing that Pokemon when I find it," Naruto said. Delia smiled a bit knowing what Pokemon Naruto was on about. "So you want to give the Pokemon a thank you gift?" "I do, and I know you do too mother," Naruto said. Then the family of 3 started to chat about other things. Once breakfast was over Naruto was by the door getting his trainers on. Then he said, "I am off, and I will be back to show you my partner." "Okay honey," Delia said. Then Naruto walked out the door. When Naruto got to the professor's home, he saw a crowd outside the gate with a car with cheerleaders and a driver waiting and thought, "Great, in here I thought he would be on his way by now." Then he sneaks into the professor's house. As Naruto was sneaking in, he sees Gray coming out and say, "Looks like Naruto isn't coming, which is a shame as I wanted to show him what a real trainer looks like." Then he into his car with his cheerleaders and the driver drives off. When Naruto enters the building, he said, "Professor, you here?" Professor then walks out of a room and said, "Ah Naruto, glad you're here." "Why wouldn't I be Professor? I want to see what this world is like, and I want to see if I can find that Pokemon," Naruto said. "Right, the one that you whose name was Arceus," Professor said. "That's right," Naruto said with a nod. "Well, I am sure you will," Professor said before was interrupted by a noise. Then he asked, "What's that noise?" Naruto listened closely then said, "I think it's coming from your computer Professor," Naruto said, and as if proven right something shot out of the professor's computer. It zipped around a bit before stopping, giving Naruto and the professor a chance to look at it. Pokemon that has a body of plasma and is shaped like a lightning rod. There is a whitish blue aura of electricity around it that forms lightning bolt-shaped appendages. After looking at it for a few moments, the professor said, "It looks like a Rotom, but I have never heard of a Rotom white before, as their shiny has been reported to be crimson." "What is the Rotom doing here?" Naruto asked. "I don't know, but it looks like it looking for something," Professor said. Just then Naruto's phone made a noise, making the Pokemon turn to look at Naruto, then zipped over and merged with Naruto's phone, making it turn white and had an arc around its case. Both Naruto and the professor looked at Naruto's transformed phone. Then Naruto asked, "What was that about?" "I don't know, I have heard that Sylph County are trying to make a new type of phone that has a Pokédex and can act as your ID, and now I think this is what they are doing," Professor said. The phone floated up and turned to see the face of the Rotom on the back. Then it said, "You are kinda right there Professor. Samuel Oak Sylph Company is creating this type of phone, but I am not a part of that plan. All I knew was and I had to get to someone whose name was Naruto and to meet him here on this day." "Oh, that's a shame, but I know you are in great hands with Naruto," Professor said to the phone. Then he turns to Naruto then said, "Now Naruto, are you ready for your starter?" "You bet I am." "Then I will go catch the Pokemon out back," Naruto said. "That's good. Now the Pokemon I want you to have has been causing problem," Professor said as he leads Naruto to the machine with 3 red and white balls. Then he pushes a button, and a 4th ball was lifted up, and then it pop open and a yellow mouse Pokemon with red cheeks appeared. Naruto looks at the Pokemon and said, "A Pikachu, well it is a cute one." Then he pats the Pokemon, then was electrocuted. Well, I am sure I don't need to tell you about Pikachu, Professor said as Naruto was being electrocuted. When Pikachu stopped, Naruto said, "No, Professor, you don't. Still a shocking experience to go through." Turning to fully face the professor, he said, "So can I get set up to go?" "There is no need to worry about the Pokédex, Professor. We Rotom phones have a built-in or the trainer ID, the Rotom phone said as it floated over to the professor's computer. Then after a few seconds it said, "Download complete. Naruto Uzumaki Ketchum, 13 years old, place of birth unknown." "Cool," Naruto said. Then he turns to Pikachu and said, "Hi Pikachu, I am Naruto. And from today I will be your trainer. I don't care and don't put me back into this," Pikachu said as he points to the Pokeball. Naruto looks at the Pokeball then said, "So not a fan of Pokeballs, got it?" Pikachu was surprised to hear Naruto comment, turns to the human and asked, "You can understand me?" "Sure can. Now do you want to join me on my journey?" Naruto asked. "How do I know you won't abuse me?" Pikachu asked. "You don't, but if it makes you feel better you can ask the Pokemon I have been looking after for the past few years," Naruto said. Then he turns to the professor and asked, "About my Pokeballs?" "Oh, right here you are," the professor said as he hands Naruto 10 Pokeballs. Naruto counts the Pokeball then said, "Professor, there are 10 balls here." "I know, but as there are a few Pokemon out back that would like to join you, I thought you would need to start out with more than normal," Oak said. And when Naruto took the balls they headed to the back of the professor's house. As the two humans walked onto the area that the Pokemon that Naruto was looking after was in, Naruto was tackled by Zora, who said, "Are you here to start your journey, Naru?" "I am as promised. I will be catching you if you want to join me, but Foist, can you talk to Pikachu there who was picked to be my starter?" Naruto said as he points to. "Got it," Zora said before heading to Pikachu. Naruto looks at Blue Pyro and Zoroark, the two Kubfu and Terrapagos the fox Pokemon, said, "Can you captured for our protection?" "I would love to, but you three are going to have to stay here for a while as you are too powerful for a starter trainer like myself," Naruto said. "We get it, but we would all still want you to catch us," Pyro said. "If that is what you all want, but you all are still going to have to stay here until I feel I am ready," Naruto said. Then upon looking at the sad look Blue was giving, he said, "Now don't give me that look. You two are classed as legendary, way too powerful for a normal trainers." "Actually Naruto, there is a way you can take them with you," Oak said. "There is?" Naruto asked. "Yeah, it's a new thing that the league has thought of, and it's called a rider license. And it allows a professor to give permission to a trainer carry more than 6 Pokemon," Oak explained. "I am sure there is more to it," Naruto said. The professor just nodded then said, "Correct, and I can explain it more at the lab as I need to fill out the paperwork." "Okay," Naruto said. Then he sees Pikachu and Zora walk over then asked, "So what have you decided?" "I will be your starter," Pikachu said. "Great," Naruto said as he gently pats Pikachu's head. Rotom phone then floated up and said, "Pokédex entry 0025, Pikachu. Male, electric mouse Pokemon, electric type, flying Terra type. When it is angered, it immediately discharges the energy stored in the pouches in its cheeks." "Now then let's catch Zora and the Kubfus," Naruto said before pushing a button on the Pokeball, making it grow. Then he taps the fox's head, then it shacks a few times, then dings, indicating the Zora was caught, and did the same with the Kubfu, Terrapagos and Zoroark. Then the Rotom PH1 said, "Pokédex entry 570, Zora, female, tricky fox Pokemon, dark type, dark Terra type. To protect themselves from danger, they hide their true identities by transforming into people and Pokemon." Pokédex entry 571, Zoroark, female, illusion fox Pokemon, dark type, dark Terra type. Each has the ability to fool a large group of people simultaneously. They protect their lair with illusory scenery, the Rotom phone said. Pokédex entry 891, Kubfu, 1 male 1 female, Wushu Pokemon, fighting type Terra type fighting. If Kubfu pulls the long white hair on its head, it's fighting S. Here it hidens and power wells up from the depths of its belly, the Rotom phone said. Pokédex entry 1025, Terrapagos, male, Terra Pokemon, normal type Terra type Stella. Terrapagos protects itself using its power to transform energy into hard crystals. This Pokemon is the source of the terrestrial phenomenon, the Rotom phone said. Welcome to the team, Naruto said as he looked at the Pokeballs. Then he faces the professor and asked, Professor, do you know what Stellatype is? No, I don't, so I will ask the professor in Paldea and see if they know anything, but if you terraform Terrapagos send me a video, Professor said, asked. Sure can Professor, Naruto said, then goes on to ask, so what do we do about these ride Pokemon? Right, please follow me, Professor said as he walks back in. To the lab. Once at the lab the professor then said, right, so a ride Pokemon is the name said a Pokemon you ride on to get from place to place but you can't use in any battles with the exception of the Pokemon League, and it must be in a Pokeball that we assign to you for the ride, and you need to ask us if you need a new Pokeball, and just like normal Pokeballs you are limited, Professor Oak explained. So basically if we need a special license and you assign a special Pokeball that we can only hold one at a time and need special permission to retrieve another Pokeball, and that we cannot us the Pokemon at all unless we get permission, Naruto said. The professor then nods then said, that's right Naruto. Well, I guess it will keep Blue out of trouble if I keep her with me, Naruto sighed. In a thoughtful manner then he said, Professor, why didn't you let any of the others know about this system? Because it's still new and the professor have been told assign the license to anyone had they knew wouldn't use the ride Pokemon in battle, Professor said. Then they started to fill out the paperwork. Then after half an hour after sending it off, Professor Oak retrieved a notification. Then he looked at it and said, well my boy, looks like you are all set. As your Rotom phone download the license, I will get you the 3 balls, then hands Naruto 3 full red Pokeballs. Thanks Professor, Naruto said before walking out back once more, but didn't have to go as Pyro and Blue was already outside waiting for Naruto. Then he said, alright you two, I have the balls for you too, and holds up the 2 balls for the 2 ancient Pokemon, and without missing a beat Blue was the first to react by touching the ball with Pyro. Following Naruto looks at the 2 balls then said, thank you. Pokédex entry 1009. Walking Wake. Female, Paradox Pokemon Water and Dragon type. Terra type Water. This ferocious creature is shrouded in mystery. It's named after an aquatic monster mentioned in an old expedition journal. Special note: Walking Wake is a ride Pokemon, the Rotom phone said. Pokédex entry 1020. Gouging Fire. Male, Paradox Pokemon. Fire and Dragon type, Terra type Fire. The rear scant few reports of this creature being sighted. Special note: Gouging Fire is a ride Pokemon, the Rotom phone said. Then Naruto heads into the lab and said, is that all, Professor? Yes, T is all Naruto, now you can start your journey, the professor said. Then Naruto picks up the Pikachu and left the lab. When Naruto approached his house, he said to Pikachu, now Pikachu, the humans you are about to meet are my family, so try and not electrocute them. If they are like you then I won't, Pikachu said. Naruto just walked in and said, Mum Molly, I'm back. Delia walked out of the kitchen and said, oh, you're back dear, later than we thought. Was there a crowd? And I take it that Pikachu is your starter. That's right, he is. For the first few minutes I got there, but they were for Gary, so I was going to sneak in. But the moment Gary went the people went left, but there was something else that needed to be done, and it was to do with Blue, Naruto said. What did she do this time? Delia asked. She did nothing, but she and the other wanted to join me, so I told them that until I feel ready they are going to have to stay behind as they are too powerful for a beginner trainer. BTU Blue. He was giving me a look, and then the professor said that there was a way that I can take her with me, but I can't use her in a battle, and that is a new system the league thought of which is called Ride Pokemon, Naruto said. That's nice of him, Delia said. So where is Molly? Naruto asked as he looked around. Oh, she is in her room upset, Delia said. Then there were a few minutes of silence. Then she asks, Naruto, do you mind taking Molly with you? I don't mind, but what about you? Naruto asked. I will be fine, as I can just go and visit Professor Oak anytime, and I know you will catch me a few Pokemon, Delia said. Well, you have 2 points there, Naruto said, then looked his mother in the eye and said, I don't mind taking Molly with me, but only if you're sure about it. That will cheer her up a bit, Delia said. Then she shouted, Molly, come down here for a bit. When Molly appeared she said, what is it, mommy? I have spoken with Naruto, and he has agreed to take you with him, Delia said. Molly turns to Naruto and asks, "You mean it, big brother?" "Of course, but you have to be on good behavior, understood," Naruto said. "Okay," Molly said. "Now go and get your stuff then. We will be on our way," Naruto said. Then the preteen girl ran out of the room and to her bedroom. After a few minutes Molly was back with a back on her back saying, "I am ready, big brother." "Okay, now. We need to say bye to Mum, then we will be on our way," Naruto said before turning to Delia and said, "Bye Mum, hope you are fine without us," then hugs her. Delia hugs Naruto back and said, "Don't worry. Why about me, I will be fine." Then she turns to Molly and said, "Now be a good girl Molly and listen to Naruto." "I will," Molly said. "Well, it's time to go Molly," Naruto said. Then he turns to his her and said, "I will call you when we get to a new town or city." "You better," Delia said, and with one last hug each the two adopted siblings were on their way to adventure. As Naruto with Pikachu on his shoulder and Molly was making their way to Viridian City, Molly was running around and Naruto, "Molly, don't wander off too far." "I won't, big brother," Molly said before a bush started rustle and the little girl went over to inspect it. Then a small rat with light purple fur jumped out, making the girl scream in surprise, which made Naruto laugh a little. Then the girl turned to Naruto and say, "That was not funny." "It sure was, as you can see, I am laughing," Naruto said as he got the laughter under control. "So what Pokemon is it, Molly?" as she watched the rat Pokemon scurry around. Naruto's phone came out of his pocket and said, "Rattata, the rat Pokemon. It will chew on anything with its fangs. If you see one, it is certain that 40 more live in the area." "It's cute," Molly said as the rat Pokemon scurries away. "Now let's see, they should be around here," Naruto said as he takes Pikachu off and starts looked around. "What are you looking for, Naruto?" Molly asked. "Well, I am looking or a Pidgey or a Spearow," Naruto replied. "Why?" Molly asked. "Because there is competition that for specific types," Naruto replied. Then he looked at his adopted sister and saw a confused look. Then he said, "Let me show you what I mean." Then he turns to the Rotom phone then said, "You know what, I will call you Arc, as you remind me of the Pokemon that brought me here." "Thank you, Naruto. So what can I do for you?" Arc asked. "I want you to show Molly a Pokeringer or a Sky Battle," Naruto said. Then he kneels down next to Molly. He said, "Now I want you to watch this with me." Then he turns to Arc and said, "Play it." "Right," Arc said before playing a few videos of the two sports. After a few minutes of watching clips from the two sports was over, Molly turns to Naruto and said, "Are there other sports?" Naruto thinks for a few moments before saying, "Well, there are all sorts of racing from Skiddo to Rhyhorn, also Pokemon fighting, and while I wouldn't say they are a sport per se, there are Pokemon showcase and contests." "What are they?" Molly asks. Naruto picks Molly up and puts her on his shoulders with Pikachu walking next to them and walks towards Viridian City. Said, Pokemon contest is basically a Pokemon fight but with style, while Pokemon showcase similar to contests, but it is a female-only contest and they have a theme to them." Then he turns to his phone. It was floating next to him and said, "Show her the both contests, the contests themselves and the showcase." Then the phone flew up to the girl and started to play the contests. After a few minutes of watching the two contacts, Molly then looks down to her brother and asks, "Hey Naruto, do you think I can do that when I get my license?" Naruto thinks for a few moments then said, "Well, does it matter what I think you can and can't do? My job as a big brother is to keep you safe and to hurt anyone that hurts you, as well as to support you in what you do. So if you want to become a coordinator or a performer, that is up to you, and when the time comes I will be there for you every step of the way and will even help you." "You mean it?" Molly asked. "Of course I do, and you know I don't go back on my word," Naruto said. "You're right, you don't," Molly said. Then she remembered and said, "Hey big brother, what about the bird Pokemon you want?" "Well, I thought they can be put on hold as I was showing you about other competition outside the gyms they have," Naruto said. As the group was walking, Naruto noticed there was a flock of Spearow and said, "Don't make any sudden movements, Molly." "Why, big brother?" Molly asked. "Because Spearows are protective of their homes and have been known to attack trainers," Naruto said as he kept an eye on the avian Pokemon. Then one spots them and attacks them. Pikachu, seeing the attack, said, "Oh no you don't," and sent a thunder shock at the Pokemon. Seeing the Spearow fall to the floor, Naruto thought, hopefully it doesn't call for its flock. The hero then stand up and with watery eyes shouted, "Help." Not good, Naruto said as he sees a lot of Spearow fly out of a tree, so acting quickly he pulls out a Pokeball and releases the Pokemon and he said, "Blue, I need you to take Molly away from here." "Why do you need me to do that?" Blue said. Then she hears of the Spearows making her look to see the flock. Then she turns back to Naruto and asks, "Oh, what about you?" "Don't worry about me and go," Naruto said as he places the girl in Blue's back. Then he slaps the Pokemon on the leg making it run away. Then he turns to Pikachu and said, "Now she is safe, let's run for it." "What about Pyro?" Pikachu asked as it remembered the Paradox Pokemon. "Don't have time," Naruto said looking back at the flock. Then he starts running. As the duo was running, Terrapagos decided to pop out, said as it looked around, "What's going on?" Then the Spearows attacked the Terra Pokemon. "Hey, knocked it off," Naruto said as he got in the way of the attack and quickly pulled out the Terra Pokemon's Pokeball. Then said, "Terrapagos, return." Then he looks at Pikachu, who was also getting attack, and goes and gets him. Then he picks up the mouse Pokemon and runs. Naruto sees a waterfall and stops at the cliff. Then he looks down at the water, then back at the flock of Spearows, and eyes go wide as he sees the flock was also attacking the one that started this whole mess. Then he gently places Pikachu on the ground and runs once more into the flock and protect the Spearow. Then heads back to pick up Pikachu. Then said, "Hope you two want a bath." Then he jumps off the cliff and lets the current take him away. Meanwhile, not far from the waterfall, a girl that was a few years older than Naruto was fishing when she got a bite, and she said, "Hey, I got a bite." Then as she struggles to reel it in, she said, "And I think it might be a big one." Then she pulled Naruto out of the water. Then she looks at Naruto. She said in a disappointed tone, "Nah, it's just a kid." Then she spots Pikachu and Spearow and in a Pokemon. Then she drops her fishing rod and goes over to them. Then she asked, "Are you two okay?" "Yeah, we are fine, though Pikachu and Spearow might nay." "Da Poke Center," Naruto said as he gets up and look over the lake and sees the flock. Then he said, "Oh come on, don't those Pokemon give up." Then he spots a bike. Then said as he rushes over, "Sorry MISS, but I need to use your bike." Then he places the two Pokemon in the basket, then gets on and starts pedaling. As Naruto was pedaling off, the girl said, "Hey, that's my bike." "This is an emergency," Naruto shouted back, still pedaling away. "Oh you," the girl said, annoyed. Then she sees something on the ground and looks closer and sees it was blood, and she said, "Oh, someone was hurt." As Naruto was pedaling to Viridian City, it started to rain and the Spearow flock was catching up, and when they did, they started to attack Naruto, who rode the bike of a cliff and came off when they hit the ground. And the Pokemon was sent flying. Seeing the flock still going to attack them, Naruto pulls out a Pokeball and throws it at the Spearow, and after a few shacks it dings green, signaling a successful capture. Then he picks up the Pokeball. Then he turns to Pikachu and said, holding up the ball, "You have to go into the Pokeball." "No, I will not go into that ball," Pikachu said, shaking its head. "You have to," Naruto said. "No, I will not," Pikachu said before getting up and jumping up using Naruto as a springboard, and then the Pokemon was hit by a thunderbolt, and it said, "Now take this, you stupid bird," and unleashed the power. Meanwhile, not far from them, Blue and Molly saw the attack, and Molly asked, "Do you think that was Big Brother?" Blue, knowing the girl was worried about Naruto and knowing she couldn't understand her, nodded while saying, "Yeah, it would." Seeing the ancient Pokemon nod, the girl then said, "Well then, let's go." And with a nod from the Pokemon started to move towards where the attack was. When the duo got to the location, they found a burnt-out bike and Naruto and Pikachu laying in the ground, and with Naruto sitting up in a pond seeing his sister and Pokemon, Naruto said, "Hey, glad you made it." The Pokemon slowly walks up to Naruto and looks him up and down, and she said, "You are hurt." "Am I?" Naruto asked, confused. Then he looks himself over and saw he has a deep cut in his left leg. Then he said, "So I do, when did I get that?" Then he completely ignores it as he then pulls out the Pokeball that now holds a Spearow, and he lets the bird out. Once the Spearow was out, it looked around and then it sees Naruto and started saying, "What do you want?" "I want to know if you want to travel with us," Naruto asked. "Wait, you can understand me?" the Spearow asked with his eyes wide. Sure, I can now answer my question, Naruto replied. Why would you want a Pokemon that is weak? The Spearow said after a few moments trying to remember the question. Why do you think you are weak? Blue asked. Everyone in the flock says so, Spearow replies. Well, they might be lying to you, Naruto said. What make you say that? Spearow asked. Because from what I believe it's the weak ones that turn out to be the strongest as they know the power of hard work, Naruto said. And you think I can become strong? Spearow asked. Without a doubt, but you need to out the work in, Naruto replied. The Spearow then thinks about it, then it looked up to Naruto and said, alright, I will join you. That's great, and soon you will have a flock that will treat you with kindness, Naruto said before returning the injured Pokemon. Then he turns to Blue and Molly and asked, ready to continue our adventure? Yeah, Molly shouted then before the group could take a step. EY saw a golden bird flying towards them and the girl said, pretty. Why thank you Molly, the bird Pokemon said in a feminine voice as it lands in front of the group. Wow, you know my name and I can understand you, Molly said. And how do you know her name? Naruto asked. The same way we know yours, Naruto Uzumaki, the Pokemon said. And who is we? Naruto asked. The legendaries we know, Abu. Tu, the boy who had a tough past and was brought here from another universe thanks to a Jirachi and a wish of a woman, the legendary Pokemon said. Then it looked at Blue and said, and I don't belie. You even have Suicune with you. Then Pyro pops out of his Pokeball. Then the bird Pokemon said, is Entei too? What's a Suicune and an Entei, big brother? Molly asked. Before Naruto could answer the question, Arc appeared and Naruto thought, where the heck did you come from? Suicune, it is said to be the reincarnation of North Winds. It is also said that it can instantly purify filthy murk. Why waters? Arc said, showing the girl a picture of the legendary beast. Then it changed pictures, then said, Entei, it is said that volcanoes erupt when it barks. Unable to restrain its extreme power, it races headlong around the land. Molly looks at the pictures then said, wow, Suicune is a beautiful Pokemon and Entei sounds tough. Then she looks at Blue and Pyro, then turns to her brother, then asks, how are these Pokemon and your Pokemon the same Pokemon? Either it was evolution or there is something else behind it, Naruto said. You are right, the bird said. So you know us, who are you? Naruto said. Before the bird could answer, Arc said, Ho-Oh, the guardian of the skies. Legend says that it will reveal itself before a pure-hearted trainer by shining its bright rainbow-colored wings. Naruto starts feeling a pain in his leg. Then he said, is there anything we can do for you, as we need to get to Viridian City? Ho-Oh shakes her head then said, oh sorry, and no, I was just wandering. If these was the Pokemon that was told though the ages. Well, until I was 8 there was 2 professors in a regain called Paldea who was dealing with time travel and brought them here, Naruto explained. Thank you, Ho-Oh said. Then she turns to the 2 Paradox Pokemon then said, do you know if Raikou is here? Both Pyro and Blue looked at each other, then Pyro said, we do not know, but if he is, then he would be in the regain that Naruto had mentioned. Thank you, Ho-Oh said. Then she turns to Naruto and said, now I must be off. BTU, we will meet again when you are in the region 1 I'm from. And there I will test you to see if I will allow you to capture me. Then she flew off. Molly looks at her bother then asked, what was about? Naruto opened his mouth to answer, but he Saint collapses, making the girl shout, big brother. Then she jumps off Blue and runs over to Naruto and shacks him a few times to wake him up, to no luck. Then she turns to Pyro and say, can you crouch own? With a nod the fire type lowers himself down. Then as she tries to get Naruto onto Pyro's back, a group of Menkeys jump down and help the girl. Then once Naruto was secure, she turns to the Pokemon that helped her out and said, thank you. Then she got on Blue with Pikachu in her bag and they rode towards Viridian City. The end. Thanks for watching. Also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.